Some places are born with a reputation. Ancient castles, abandoned prisons, forgotten hospitals where thousands suffered. You expect those places to hold secrets. You expect shadows in their hallways. You expect the dead to whisper there. But the most terrifying stories begin in places where nothing frightening should happen. A small home, a simple bedroom, a family preparing to sleep, a young woman who had no idea that, before the year was over, strangers would travel from miles away just to stand outside her window and listen for the impossible. Because in the town of Amherst, Nova Scotia, a house had begun to speak, and according to those who were there, it spoke her name, Esther Cox. Now, before I continue, fair warning, I forgot I had to record this today, and I accidentally smoked some weed before the recording, so buckle up. The year was 1878. Amherst was a growing town surrounded by forests, fields, and the sounds of industry. The kind of community where people noticed when a neighbor lamp burnt late, where rumors traveled faster than trains, where everyone knew everyone's business. Esther Cox was 19 years old. By all accounts, she was practical, quiet, hardworking. She lived with her sister Olive, her brother-in-law Daniel Teed, and other members of a family in a modest house. There was nothing unusual about their lives, nothing that suggested history was about to remember their address. Then something happened that changed Esther forever. A man she knew attempted to assault her. She escaped physically alive, but the terror of that night remained. In the weeks that followed, her family noticed she was different. She was frightened, unable to relax. She startled at small noises. She had trouble sleeping, and then the house began making noises of its own. At first, scratching, very faint, almost like a mouse behind the wall. The family searched. They found nothing. Then came the knocking, not random, not the creaking of old wood settling. 3 slow knocks from inside the bedroom wall. Knock, knock, knock. The family froze. Someone knocked back. The wall answered. Knock, knock, knock. The same rhythm, the same number, as though something hidden behind the wooden boards had been waiting for someone to acknowledge it. That was the first moment the family realized they were no longer dealing with an ordinary house. But they had no idea how much worse it would become. The nights became unbearable. Esther became terrified of going to sleep because whatever was happening seemed to wait until darkness to arrive. The family tried everything. They searched the attic, they checked beneath the floorboards, they examined the walls, no hidden animals, no person playing a trick, no explanation. Then one night, the nightmare became impossible to ignore. Esther lay in bed trying to sleep. Her sister was nearby. The room was silent. Then Esther suddenly sat upright. Her eyes widened. She pointed toward the foot of the bed. Something was there, something she claimed she could feel, but no one else could see. Then the bed moved. At first it trembled, a small vibration. Then it began to shake violently. The wooden frame rattled against the floor. The blankets shifted. The room erupted in panic. Her family grabbed the bed, trying to hold it still. It continued moving, as though an unseen force had wrapped its hands around the frame and was trying to throw her out. A doctor was called. Dr. Carritt. I'm going to go with that, Carritt. It's spelled C-A-R-R-I-T-T-E. Dr. Carritt. Carritt? Okay. Dr. Carritt. Help me with this one. It's C-A-R-R-I-T-T-E. How do you pronounce that in the comments? Dr. Carrot, let's go with that, entered the room expecting to treat a frightened young woman. Instead, he reportedly witnessed the disturbances himself. The bed moved. The sounds came from the walls, and even he left unable to explain what he had seen. The story escaped the house, and Amherst began to whisper. By winter, the Cox family had become something no family ever wants their home to become: a spectacle. People came with lanterns at night, neighbors, skeptics, curious strangers. Some laughed, some mocked Esther. They called her a liar, a performer, a girl desperate for attention. She hated the attention, because every time people gathered, the disturbances seemed to become stronger. It was as if whatever was inside the house wanted an audience. One man arrived determined to expose the trick. He sat in the room with his arms crossed. He said loudly, "There is no spirit here." The room remained silent. For several moments, nothing happened. The man smiled, then bang! A thunderous knock exploded from the wall directly behind his head. The man's smile disappeared. The room erupted. Before anyone could move, another bang came from the opposite wall, then another, then another. The knocks moved around the room, above them, below them, behind them, as if something invisible was walking through the walls, watching every person inside, choosing exactly where to strike. The skeptic never returned. The haunting became more personal, more focused, more hateful. The objects began to move. A box slid across the floor. Small items were thrown. Strange sounds echoed through the empty rooms. Then came the message. According to later accounts recorded by witnesses, words appeared on a wall. "Esther Cox, you are mine to kill." Not a warning, not a request, a declaration. The room fell silent. Everyone looked at Esther, because there was no longer any doubt about one thing. Whatever people believed was happening, it was centered on her, and it was angry. For weeks, the people of Amherst asked the same question: what was inside the Cox home? Was it a spirit, a demon, a trick, a mind broken by fear? They searched the walls, they checked the floors, they checked the attic. Nothing. No secret passages, no hidden person, no animal. Nothing that could explain a voice of knocks answering from the darkness. But then something happened that terrified everyone. The family moved Esther, and the phenomenon came with her. That was the moment the town changed its mind, because a haunted house can be abandoned. A cursed room can be avoided. But what do you do when the thing haunting you walks out the front door beside you? Esther stayed in another home, hoping the distance would bring silence. For the first few nights, it did. The quiet almost felt unnatural. She slept. She smiled. Her family believed the nightmare was over. Then one night, just after midnight, the sound returned. Scratch, scratch, scratch from inside the walls beside her bed. Esther froze. She did not call for anyone. She did not scream. She simply stared, because she knew that sound. The same sound that had haunted her every night. The sound of something waking up. Then came the knock. 1, 2, 3, slow, patient, as if something on the other side of the wall had been waiting for her to recognize it. Esther whispered, "No." The room became silent. For a moment she thought it was over. Then, bang! Something slammed against the wall so violently that a picture frame fell from its nail. She ran from the room. The family rushed inside. The room was empty, but the bed was moving, not shaking, not trembling, moving, slowly sliding across the wooden floor, as if someone invisible was dragging it toward the door. By this point, the story had spread beyond Amherst. People arrived from surrounding towns. Some came with prayer books, some came with notebooks, some came simply to laugh. One man stood in the doorway and said, "I'll believe in ghosts when one shakes my hand." The room fell quiet. Nothing happened. A few people laughed. Then the chair behind him moved, just a few inches. The man ignored it. The chair moved again, closer. He turned. No one was there. The room became silent. Then the chair tipped over by itself. The man left immediately. He never returned. Stories like this spread through Nova Scotia. The house became a place people feared after sunset. Children dared each other to approach it. Adults crossed the road rather than pass it at night. And Esther became known as the girl followed by something unseen. But the worst was still waiting, because the knocking was about to become fire. The smell arrived before anyone saw it. Burning cloth, a faint smell of smoke drifting through the house. Someone asked, "Did someone leave the lamp too close to the curtain?" They checked. Nothing. The smell disappeared. Then it returned, stronger. The family searched again. That was when they found a piece of fabric smoldering. No one had touched it. No lamp was near it. The fire was extinguished quickly. Everyone tried to explain it. A spark, a mistake, an accident. That was the sensible answer. Then another fire appeared. And another. Small flames in places where there should have been nothing to ignite. People stopped asking whether something was making noises. They began asking a far more terrifying question. Was something trying to burn them alive? Eventually, the story reached a traveling actor named Walter Hubel. I think it's pronounced Hubel, so we're going to go with that. Hubbell, if you were wondering. He had heard the rumors, the mysterious knocks, the moving objects, the unexplained fires. He expected to uncover a fraud. Instead, he decided to stay with Esther, night after night, with a notebook beside his bed, listening, watching, waiting. The first night, nothing happened. The second night, silence. The third night, at exactly the moment he began to think the stories were lies, the wall beside him knocked 3 times. Hubel sat upright. He lit a candle. The room was empty. Then the knocking became again. From beneath the floor, then above his head, then from the wall behind him, moving, circling, like something invisible was walking around his bed, studying him. He later wrote that he had never experienced anything like it, that the longer he stayed, the more convinced he became that Esther was not pretending. But there was one event that he would never forget, because the thing haunting Esther stopped hiding, and according to those who were there, it revealed its anger. One evening, several witnesses sat in the room with Esther. They had seen the knocks. They had heard the sounds. They thought they were prepared. They were wrong. Without warning, a loud crash echoed through the room. A box flew from a shelf. A chair shifted. The walls began to pound. 1 knock, 2, 3, then dozens, rapid, violent, as if something trapped inside the house was trying to break free. And then came the words, the message that would become the most famous and disturbing part of the Amherst Mystery. Esther Cox, you are mine to kill. A sentence written not as a warning, but as a promise. A promise that whatever had attached itself to Esther was not finished, and the most terrifying nights were still ahead. By the spring of 1879, the people of Amherst no longer visited Esther Cox's home out of curiosity. They came because they wanted to know if the stories were true. They wanted to stand in the room where the walls answered back. They wanted to hear the knocks. They wanted to witness the impossible. And many claimed they did, but something had changed. The disturbances were no longer random. They had become angry, almost personal. According to those who were there, it seemed to react to words. It reacted to disbelief. The more someone mocked the phenomenon, the more violent the disturbances became. It was as if the unseen force had developed a personality, a cruel one. One stormy evening, a small group gathered inside the house. The rain struck the windows. The wind pushed against the wooden walls. A lantern burned quietly on the table. Esther sat silently, exhausted. She had lived for months without peace. No room felt safe. No bed felt comfortable. No night passed without fear. Then the knocking started. Not three gentle taps, not a distant scratching, a violent strike. Bang! The entire room shook. Everyone turned. Another hit. Bang! This time from the opposite wall, then the ceiling, then beneath the floor. The sounds moved around the room, above them, behind them, below them, faster, closer, as though something invisible was running through the walls. One witness reportedly shouted, "Who are you?" and the room became completely silent. The silence lasted so long that everyone believed it was finally over. Then, a single knock came from the wall beside Esther's head. Slow, deliberate, almost thoughtful. Knock. The message was clear. It knew exactly where she was. The most frightening thing about the Amherst mystery was not the noises. It was that the danger became real. The family had already seen small unexplained fires, but one night the flames became much worse. The smell of smoke filled the room. Someone shouted. A piece of clothing had caught fire. The flames spread quickly. People rushed to extinguish it. Esther was terrified. She began to believe that whatever was following her did not merely want attention. It wanted her gone. The town became divided. Some believed she was a victim of a supernatural attack. Others believed she was responsible. Rumors spread. Whispers followed her through the streets. A girl who had already suffered a terrible trauma was now treated as a mystery. And eventually, those whispers became something much more serious, an accusation. The fire broke out while Esther was working at another house. This time, the authorities became involved. No ghosts, no spirits, no supernatural explanations. Only a question. Who started the fire? Esther was arrested. She was put on trial. Many believed she was guilty. Others argued that the strange events surrounding her had been witnessed by too many people to be dismissed. The court was not interested in ghosts. It was interested in evidence. Esther was convicted of arson. She spent a short time in prison, and strangely, while she was away from the public eye, the disturbances stopped. No knocks, no moving objects, no fires, only silence. Some people saw this as proof that she created the entire story. Others believed something had finally left her. No one could agree. Walter Hubel remained convinced that Esther had experienced something extraordinary. He wrote a book describing the events he claimed to witness. His account would make the Amherst mystery famous across Canada and beyond, but even he could not answer the one question everyone asked. What was it? A spirit, a force of the human mind, a deception, a combination of trauma, fear, and the expectations of everyone around her? There was no final confrontation, no priest who banished the demon, no hidden room discovered behind the walls, no confession, no explanation. The mystery simply faded, and in some ways, that made it even more frightening. Imagine living in that home. Imagine lying awake at night, listening, waiting, knowing that at any moment, something you cannot see may answer you. A knock from the wall, a sound from the ceiling, a movement from the corner of the room, and then nothing. Because perhaps the greatest fear is not knowing what a monster looks like. The greatest fear is never knowing if there was one at all. More than a century has passed since Esther Cox walked the streets of Amherst. The old witnesses are gone. The voices that argued over her innocence or guilt have disappeared, but the story remains. The Great Amherst Mystery is still considered one of the most famous alleged hauntings in Canadian history. Skeptics point to trauma, stress, misinterpretation, or fraud. Believers point to the many witnesses who said they saw events with their own eyes. And somewhere between those two possibilities, the mystery survives. Because every ghost story asks the same question. What if something was there? But the Amherst mystery asks a much darker one. What if everyone else saw it too? The walls of that small Nova Scotia home have long since fallen silent. The candles have burned out. The witnesses are gone. But if late at night you hear a knock coming from somewhere inside your own house, you may understand why Esther Cox never truly forgot the sound of something knocking back. And we did it. I was stoned and I got through it, barely, but we did it. Okay, I'll see you next week. Bye.